Hi friends, welcome back to Food Prep Guide. We are canning some spaghetti sauce today. It's actually a multi-purpose sauce that I would like to use for like a base for chili and soups. We've actually already used it as our pizza sauce, so it's just kind of multi-purpose in that way. And I wanted to share my process for making it a little easier to manage. So it starts with frozen tomatoes. As the tomatoes come in from my garden, I will wash them, core them, and then into these freezer bags they go and into the freezer. And I'll just do that all throughout this summer, and when things are slowing down and all of my tomatoes have been harvested, then I will turn my attention to canning them into this sauce. So what I'm doing here is I'm just giving them a final rinse, getting rid of all of those chunks of ice, and just rinsing them off one last time for any case there was any lingering dirt or anything like that. And at this point, I'm getting ready to go put them in my oven roaster, my stovetop oven roaster, and this has proven to be such a fantastic tool for canning. It just allows us to can large amounts at one time without having to babysit it. So as you can see here, that one of the biggest benefits of freezing the tomatoes first is not only being able to get to the harvest whenever you have time, but you can see the skin slip right off. So normally, in order to peel tomatoes, you have to either have a food mill or you have to blanch them and scorch them in boiling water for a few seconds and then peel them like that. But when you freeze them, those peels just come right off. So that is another added benefit. You will see in future clips that there are still some peels left, and after they cook down for a little bit, they come off even more easily, and so I'll just go through with a pair of tongs and lift those peels out as I come across them. As far as seeds go, you will see in a minute why I don't worry about de-seeding the tomatoes. I don't have a food mill, so would be nearly impossible for me anyway, but we're going to be using a trick where that's not going to matter. Anyway, so we will get to that in just a minute. So after we peel all these tomatoes, I will start the process of adding the ingredients. So you see these kind of yellow pieces of shreds in there, and that is shredded zucchini. I like to stretch my tomato harvest with zucchini, and since I'm adding zucchini in addition to some other low acid foods such as onions and garlic and peppers, actually I can't remember if I put peppers in this one this year or not, but since I'm adding all of those low acid foods, I do pressure can my spaghetti sauce. What you see here is I am just removing some excess moisture. That is one of the cons of freezing, is some excess moisture, but as you saw, really easy to take care of. So right now I'm adding balsamic vinegar. If you're going to be water bathing, this is an acidifier, which will help you keep your acidity at safe levels for water bath canning. But even though I'm pressure canning, I still add it because it just tastes really good. It makes the tomato sauce taste very flavorful. I ended up putting in a total of 2 tablespoons of balsamic vinegar. Next is minced garlic. Sometimes I have garlic already harvested at the point when I make my sauce. This year I did not, so I just went ahead and used some pre-prepped minced garlic from the store, and I ended up putting, I think, 5 or 6 teaspoons of the minced garlic. Next is canning salt, and remember, this is just salt that has no added ingredients in it, no additives, no anti-caking agents, and it is not iodized. And I ended up using, 3 tablespoons of canning salt, but that's something that you can just add to taste. As we move on throughout the recipe, towards the end I'll start tasting it, and then I'll come through and kind of add some salt and pepper according to what it needs. At this point, we absolutely love the flavors of basil and how basil pairs well with the garlic and tomatoes, so we do a pretty heavy portion of basil in our sauce. So I ended up doing 2 to 3 big handfuls of basil in my pot, and then I also did a tablespoon of the Italian seasoning. That's the first seasoning we saw go in. Bear in mind that when we are canning, it is recommended only to use dehydrated herbs, not fresh herbs, because fresh herbs have their own pH levels and it can end up messing with your total acidity, the acidity of the end product. This is just some pepper, and I'm just doing that to taste as well. I started out with 2 teaspoons, and I believe I ended up adding another teaspoon toward the end. So now I'm just going to give that a good mix. Then I'm going to be adding, I usually add onions to my tomato sauce, and I usually do 1 whole onion per roaster oven load. So what you can see here is the reason I was saying I don't need a food mill and I don't de-seed, because we are going to be using an immersion blender, and that's how I get the tomatoes into tomato sauce. And it will just pulverize those seeds. Yes, there's going to be a few here and there, but it has not been an issue for our family. It pulverizes the peels if there are any that happen to linger as well, and it just makes it nice and smooth. There is one potential downside of using an immersion blender that I learned this year, and we actually dedicated an entire video to that because it was so shocking. I thought I ruined my entire harvest of tomatoes, but fortunately I did not. And if you use a blender or an immersion blender, you might face the same problem. I will put that video right at the end of this one on the screen. You'll be able to click right on there on the screen and see what happened to my tomato sauce and what might happen to yours if you choose to use a blender as well. So next, after I did that blending, it was not as thick as I wanted it to be, so I added some cans of tomato paste. I can't remember if I mentioned it. I let this sauce cook overnight, so this sauce has already been cooking overnight before I blended it up. And that's just how it helps me to break up the tasks and chores over a 2-day period and not have to do so much all at once on a particular day. And it has made canning and preserving my tomato harvest much more enjoyable and less stress, less hecticness. I'm going to use that blender one more time now that I've got the paste in, and I'm just going to get it really nice and smooth. I hope you can kind of see at this point, we really don't see many peels and seeds. There are a few seeds here and there, but nothing major, and it's just a great way to not have to use a food mill. After this, I'm going to go ahead and turn the heat up on the roaster all the way up to about 275 to 300 degrees, because now we're almost at the point where we need to start cooking it down to get the exact consistency that we're looking for. And when you are cooking your tomato sauce down in order to get a thicker consistency, you're going to want to leave the lid off of the roaster so that the liquid can evaporate out. If that lid is on, that liquid is just going to drop right back down into your sauce, and it's not going to cook down the way that you want. So here you can see I have turned the heat up. You can see that bubbling around the edges. This is where cooking it down happened for 3 to 4 hours, and you can see it's a good bit thicker now. Nice and vibrant, and will work great as a pasta sauce or a pizza sauce. Now it's time to can. I'm using my Presto digital canner, so I'm setting it to the pressure can settings, and I'm going to be using quarts first, so we need to pressure can at 25 minutes. I do can in both quarts and pints, because we find that the pints are perfect for pizza and the quarts are needed for things like pasta sauces and soup bases, chili bases, and that sort of thing. So here I'm just loading my jar. Tomato sauce, all of your tomato sauce and spaghetti sauce, any of those types of products are going to need 1-inch headspace, and that 1-inch headspace is just where it's at the neck of the jar where it starts narrowing in and going up to that first little lip there. The next step is going to be debubbling. Debubbling is just going to help us get all those air pockets out, make sure there's no trapped air so that we have as high a quality of a product as possible. Next, we need to wipe the rims and make sure that there are no food particles left on the rim so that we can get a good solid seal. And after that, we're going to add our lid, and then we're going to add our ring to fingertip type, and that just means not screwing it down really hard. Just go to the point of resistance and stop there. And into the canner they go. That really is all there is to it, to this spaghetti sauce, tomato sauce, multi-purpose sauce. Remember to check out that video that I'm going to be posting right here on the screen on what to expect if you use some sort of blender or immersion blender in your sauces, whether it's tomato sauce, applesauce, pear sauce, any kind of sauce-based product where you're trying to blend it into a liquid, you might find these bubbles in it, and you might need to know what that is like. Okay, so we'll see y'all next time. Bye.